Mike Hughes is described as a self-taught rocket scientist who is preparing to prove that the Earth isn't round, but actually flat. This Saturday, the 25th of November, the 61-year-old is planning to launch himself in a homemade rocket and reach 1,800 feet high in his scrap metal contraption and fly through the air at 500 miles per hour above the Mojave Desert. Eventually, the limo driver's goal is to get 10 miles high so he can prove the Earth is disc-shaped, and this weekend's flight marks the first step in his Flat Earth space program. Hughes has spent $20,000 building the steam-powered rocket in his spare time, and will be live streaming the launch over the internet. The self-described daredevil says he switched his focus to rockets after twice breaking his back doing stunt jumps in cars. He said in an interview, "I don't believe in science. I know about aerodynamics and fluid dynamics and how things move through the air, but that's not science, that's just a formula." The rocket will be launched from the back of a converted motorhome purchased from Craigslist for $1,500. Speaking about the risks of the flight, Hughes said, "It's scary as hell, but none of us are getting out of this world alive." Hughes' website describes him as the only man to design, build, and launch himself in a rocket. He previously flew in his own rocket in 2014. Hughes has stated that once he lands at the weekend, he intends to announce that he is running for the governorship of California. Flat Earth theory has seen a resurgence in recent years, fueled by online message boards and some high-profile endorsements from celebrities. The Flat Earth Society, founded in 1956 and relaunched online in the 2000s, currently has over 500 members, although the group has splintered into two separate factions with competing websites. In the NBA, Boston Celtics' Kyrie Irving made headlines for appearing to endorse the idea that the Earth is flat, and former basketball star Shaquille O'Neal surprised everyone in March by declaring the same, before later retracting the claim saying he'd been joking. Irving has also recently distanced himself from the belief. Rapper B.O.B. has made social media posts supporting the theory in the past and is currently attempting to raise $1 million to place multiple weather balloons and satellites into space for experimental exploration. He has so far only managed to gather around $7,000 for the project.
Yeah, my name is Mad Mike Hughes. I'm a daredevil here in Southern California, and a limo driver, a former NASCAR crew chief, and former professional motorcycle racer. So I've been around the world, basically, and some days it feels like it, like today. Basically, I was kind of known as the world's most famous limousine driver, and I got involved with NASCAR, and I revolutionized that sport. I was an aerodynamic specialist. I built cars. I got a car in the days of the Thunder movie, 2 cars in museums. I've had cars in the front row of Daytona, Talladega, on calendars, NASCAR calendars. So, you know, I'm the first guy that vinyl wrapped a NASCAR stock car. So, I made my mark in NASCAR. And it just, it's like everything else has just turned too political, and it's very tiring to do for a living. And it just burnt me out. And I was always involved with other things. And I was doing stunts. And I set the record for the longest limousine jump. And did 3 or 4 jumps. And I set the record in Paris, California, and broke my back for the 2nd time. And I'm thinking, this is not paying very well. And I'm thinking, I'm going to do the Evel Knievel rocket jump without knowing anything about rockets. And, so many years later, I finally do a jump and jump a quarter mile. And I'm getting ready to jump a mile in Amboy, California within about 45 to 60 days. I'm going to jump the whole town of Amboy. We're going to launch 300 foot from Route 66, and it's going to be the longest jump of all time, and probably the greatest daredevil stunt of all time, because I'm going to launch this rocket from a mobile rocket launcher, which I'm the only man in the world that has one. I built it just like my rocket, so it's quite an endeavor. I am the only gentleman in the history of mankind to design, build, and launch themselves in their own rocket.
Okay, research Flat Earth. And did you already know about Flat Earth?
Oh yes, I've been a believer for maybe almost a year. I researched it for several months. In between doing everything else, you still have to try to make a living and everything and all that kind of stuff. And this rocket is actually, it eats up a lot of my time. But when I'm not doing that, I research things. I mean, everything. And this is why I know a lot about the background of NASA, Elon Musk. You know, if you want to talk about NASCAR, I can talk about that, a lot of things. But, you know, I'm not a stock market guy. I don't believe in it. I don't believe in banking. You know, I believe in the real things. But the problem is people growing up nowadays don't know the difference between CGI and what is real. But anyway, to get back to the NASA thing, you know, most of those NASA astronauts are Freemasons. So John Glenn and Neil Armstrong, you know, they're 33 days Freemasons. So once you understand that, then you kind of understand that, you know, there can be some deception there. But what really turned me on NASA was learning about Thomas Ronald Barron, who was killed in April of '67 after a 500-page report to NASA explaining how disarray the whole program was. He died a train in his car, killing his wife, him, and his stepdaughter. 6 days after that, and the 500-page report's never been seen since. So you tell me what's going on.
Yep.
But see, they don't want that in the corporate world. It's just like Joe Bannister went to IRS and said, this is not right. I've researched it for 2.5 years, and there's no law to make you pay taxes. And he says, okay, here's your walking papers. And they took him to court and tried to send him to prison. So that's how that whole deal works. Gus Grissom, who died on the launch pad there with 2 other astronauts, used to hang a lemon inside one of the spacecraft. Says, we'll never make it to the moon. It's impossible. We can't even communicate between the buildings right now. He's one of the astronauts that died in that fire.
Ooh,
And his son still thinks he was murdered. Elon Musk, he's not a physicist. He's not a rocket engineer. You know, he's a sideshow barker. It's what he is. I mean, do you really think he's going to build a hyperloop? Do you think he's really going to colonize Mars? Do you really think he's going to build that underground city tunnel for cars underneath LA? It ain't going to happen.